So Krishna says the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. How often do you and I get bewildered and we don't know, oh, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? So the principles of religious duties are explained over here. Krishna says the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. What is action, what is forbidden action, and what is inaction? Karma, vikarma, akarma. Forbidden action is vikarma. Forbidden action means laws that are completely against the laws of God. Just like you have the laws of the state, but anything against the laws of the state is what is considered to be anti-state, isn't it? So similarly, you have forbidden action. Forbidden action is vikarma. Vikarma means what is forbidden action. And karma. Karma is actually action. And akarma. Akarma is also inaction, but it is not inaction in the sense that a devotee doesn't work. For example, even our household devotees who do jobs like you or businesses like you but who are chanting Hare Krishna, it is not that they don't believe in doing any action. There is action, but that action is still considered inaction. Just like, for example, we have this microphone manufactured by the Philips company. And here is another microphone manufactured by the Sony company. And here is a tape recorder made by the Sanyo company. And I'm sure this video is also made by Sony or one of these Japanese giants. Now, certainly, all this facility was not produced by them with the mind that it's going to be used in service to Krishna, isn't it? They manufactured all this thinking that they're going to make a profit out of this. But now, we are using this Philips microphone in broadcasting our lecture to all of you. So it is not that a devotee of the Lord doesn't perform any action. You understand? It is not that a devotee of the Lord is inactive. It's not a devotee who considers that his duty is to just withdraw to the mountains is not actually a devotee. A devotee of the Lord is very active. One of the qualifications of one who takes shelter of the Lord is that he's anxious to be linked up with the Lord for 24 hours a day. So a devotee of the Lord is very active, but his activities are for the pleasure of the Lord. So there is inaction, there is action, and there is, what was the third thing? Forbidden action. So we must know what each of these represent or what each of these are. So forbidden action we've already explained. Very broadly we can say like meat, fish and eggs, intoxication, illicit sex life, gambling, all these things which are against the laws of God are forbidden action. Then what is action? Action is when you perform karma yoga. When you're performing activities, you may approach the demigods, you want something in exchange, but at least you're following these scriptural injunctions to some degree. And akarma, that is inaction. That is when you perform activities for the pleasure of the Lord. So while you're performing activities for the pleasure of the Lord, there's absolutely no reaction. Therefore, Krishna says, one who sees inaction in action. Seeing inaction in action means no reaction to the action done for the pleasure of Krishna. When you do an action for the pleasure of Krishna, there is no reaction. For example, the same Philips microphone, I'm sure, is also probably being used in gay lodges where there's some ballroom dancing going on. These same lights can also be used in a nightclub. But here we are using it for the pleasure of the Lord. There's this hall, for example. This hall has been used for so many business conferences. Nobody could even dream that we would use this hall in the Chamber of Commerce for a spiritual conference, isn't it? It's the most unusual place to have a spiritual conference in the Chamber of Commerce hall. But we are having it in the Chamber of Commerce hall. So, when action is performed for the pleasure of the Lord, that is called inaction. So, inaction and action means when one is working for the pleasure of the Lord. And action in inaction. This refers to the impersonalist, for example. Krishna has in the 4th chapter established his personal form. And in establishing his personal form, Krishna has established a superiority of the personal form of worship over the impersonal form. But there are those who take to the impersonal path, and they make some sacrifices. But whatever sacrifices they may make, that is not enough because their sacrifices are not permanent. They're not permanent because the impersonal path can never really give you bliss. Satchidananda. We had just described the 3 characteristics of the Lord, one of which was bliss. So therefore, one doesn't get full result from that. So action and inaction. Now one may be doing, but actually that action doesn't free one completely from the cycle of birth and death. So Krishna is saying what it is difficult to understand what is action, what is forbidden action, what is inaction. Therefore, Krishna is explaining that a devotee who is on the transcendental path, on the path of transcendental happiness, his every endeavor is devoid of the desire for sense enjoyment. His every endeavor, he may be walking, talking, he may be running the country, just like we heard earlier in our discussion today how Krishna gave this knowledge to Vivaswan, to Manu, to Ikshvaku, who were all rulers. They were all ruling, but their every activity was devoid of sense enjoyment. Now, I'm not going to talk about sense enjoyment now because we've already talked the previous days. Sense enjoyment again means activities for the pleasure of the senses and defiance of the laws of God. So, one, he's considered to be a sage of perfect understanding who has burned up the desire for sense enjoyment with the fire of perfect knowledge. Just like when you have fire. When you have fire, you can burn out everything, isn't it? When you have fire, you can burn all the dirt. So similarly, in the fire of perfect spiritual knowledge, you can burn the desire for sense enjoyment. The desire for sense enjoyment appears attractive because we don't have the fire of knowledge. Just like if a child is told, here is a bottle of poison, drink this bottle of poison, and in the end I'll give you Cadbury's chocolate. The child will fall for it, isn't it? Because the child is not mature enough to understand what poison can do. But if somebody told you, for example, drink this bottle and I'll give you a crore or a piece, you won't do it. Because you'll say this poison is going to kill myself. So similarly, the tendency to engage in sense enjoyment, this tendency to engage in sense enjoyment can be burnt by the fire of knowledge. Therefore, it is very important that we cultivate this knowledge. And a person who has cultivated this knowledge is always satisfied. He has no desire for fruitive action, even though he is engaged in all different types of work. He engages in all different types of work. He uses his mind and intelligence to control his senses, and giving up the false sense of proprietorship, he becomes free from false possessions and sinful activities.